I think we all love a bit of anime, otherwise you wouldn't be here. But we've also all seen scenes that made us rub our eyes trying to process what the fuck is going on. Today we're looking at anime logic that makes zero sense, so let's not waste any more time and let's get into it. This right here, this is just criminal, like EDP's level of diabolical. Look, I understand anime isn't supposed to be the most realistic form of entertainment. This video will prove that, but come on. The creators are not even trying with this shit, because how the fuck does a girl that didn't even hit puberty yet get this? Are they born that way? Because I feel horrible for the mothers having to squeeze all of that out. Like, have you guys ever gone to an elementary school and spotted one of the students rocking jugs bigger than their spines could handle? Me personally, I haven't, and it would be pretty fucking weird if you went scouting for it in the first place. But speaking of weird, there's no amount of convincing that can normalize this shit for me, because not even a grown woman can naturally gain shit like that, let alone a newly promoted toddler. And here's the thing, if they only kept it at drawing them that way, I mean, I would still mind it very fucking much, but let's be real, they're never leaving it at that, are they? Since the Gooners is made for our on their knees begging for fan service, and oh boy, the creators are basically overdosing them on that shit, having the most insane shots that leaves you wondering how the show is still legal. Because having a cup size bigger than all the women's in their bloodlines combined means gravity will do its thing, having 90% of the show's budget going into animating, those types of physics. It's a miracle that they're even bipedal, because if the recoil is this massive, even bones of titanium wouldn't be enough to save them from snapping in half. And I know that this community has a pretty bad gatekeeping problem, but come on, if you defend this shit, please head to the nearest police station. They'll probably love hearing your opinions on these types of characters. These characters are like the chosen ones or something, because for whatever reason, they always get their hands on the most broken abilities that aren't obtainable to the average person. The type of shit that bodies any villain foolish enough to try to take him on, making us witness the evisceration of someone's dignity, where a grown man gets absolutely bodied by a teenage boy, one that looks like he hasn't even touched weights in his entire life. Like, imagine getting fucked over by a squeaker built like a pile of bones. If I were them, I would get my ass to a plastic surgery clinic so they can transform my face into someone unrecognizable, because ain't no way that I will show my face around ever again. But when I say that they never touch weights in their life, I literally mean that training isn't in their program whatsoever. They can be chilling behind their TV, laying down, stuffing their mouth with snacks, and working themselves towards a Baymax build. But when they finally get into a fight, they would somehow still defeat a fucking tank with a training schedule that even puts Cristiano Ronaldo to shame. And I know a lot of viewers are probably built more like Shaggy Rogers than the Hulk, and that they want a character that they can identify themselves with. But personally, I would feel even more alienated seeing someone who's my size taking on an entire dragon and then saving the world afterwards. So whatever psychological trick these creators are trying to pull, it isn't working. Bro, the durability of some characters is actually insane. Like, they can get run over by a train and would probably limp away with their thumbs up, telling you there's only a small scrape or whatever. This is something that happens especially in fights. The hero gets their ass kicked and ends up in the most unwinnable situations possible. Like, he can go through 2 entire towers, making them both collapse on top of him, maybe losing a few teeth, sight in one eye, or maybe lose their dick. But all they need to do is wipe out the blood to return back to their old strength. Sometimes they get so angry that they discover some hidden power that they didn't even know that they had, which kind of goes hand in hand with the previous entry. The combination of the powers and defense stats just makes the ultimate killing machine, making me out as the biggest pussy imaginable, because a paper cut is enough to put me in a fucking coma. Meanwhile, this dude can survive a few cacti shoved into every possible orifice. All of that while the enemy is just as big of a wimp as me, being defeated by just a few slices to his stomach. But listen, sometimes they're on the verge of death, right? Their durability not being enough to keep the enemy on a leash, so they're just laying there, bleeding out, going through their memories, trying to make this moment as tragic as possible, just for them to remember a random girl from elementary school, and then gaining motivation to fight again. Why? Because he promised her that he would be her hero. I don't think that 6-year-old girl still remembers any of that, but if that keeps you going, cool, I guess. Nothing screams more upper virgin behavior like this stuff. Look fellas, understand. Sometimes you have a dry period where you're down horrendous, having the most hyperactive rod that makes you feel like a struggling dragon tamer, trying to keep an unstable beast at bay. But come on, there's no way that people exist who get excited because they're sharing a drink or something. And I call out the boys and shit, but girls aren't innocent in this one either. Freaking out over some goofy shit that they call an indirect kiss. I mean, if we go by that logic, I would be considered a bisexual man long ago, since I shared quite a few stuff with both genders. So let's be careful with the things we throw around. Because bro, all that air you're breathing, who knows, maybe it's residue exhaled by the opposite gender. God forbid they find that out though, because this shit will quickly turn into a bloodbath. having the character straight up spraying out their nose because of it. And speaking of spraying out the nose, who came up with that logic? Listen, I understand where the other stuff came from, right? For example, the teens beating an unbeatable demon. Unrealistic, but it's someone's fantasy of becoming a hero. One can easily come up with that. But this? Who thought that horniness was best described as a nose turning into a pressure washer? I mean, doesn't that hurt? Or, you know, give you a one-way ticket to the underworld? Because there's no human being that could survive 6 entire liters evaporating simply because they saw a section of a girl's side boob. Like, can you imagine that this was a real thing in our world? All those OnlyFans models, they would end up bankrupt and living under a bridge simply because they killed off all of their customers by doing their job. Not gonna lie, that would be pretty funny. I do wonder though, if they already freak out over something that is considered pretty mild, how would they react when something goes to an entirely new level? Like, I don't know, they finally get to lose their virginity or something. They already lose a dangerous amount of blood because they see a slight bit of skin. So, what will happen if they see a fully nude body in front of them? I'm worried that a cleaning squad won't even be enough to clean that mess up. Actually, who am I kidding? It's unreasonable to think that these characters will ever get to that stage. I'll be honest, this is something that I like about anime, but I'll still poke fun of it. The same goes for most of the stuff I mentioned so far. So, with that out of the way, yeah, the noises. It's like the majority of the dialogue is just through grunting noises or something. You know, the noises they're making when they're confused, shocked, and whatever this emotion is supposed to be. The only reason it doesn't look like pure insanity is because it takes place in a Japanese cartoon. Like, imagine you're watching SpongeBob and you're seeing this yellow square fella making noises like... Or even better than that, imagine people in real life did something like this. Like, you're just talking to someone, you know, having a normal conversation, you say something that they didn't quite catch, and instead of saying, "Sorry, I didn't quite catch that, can you repeat that for me?" you hear... It would feel pretty out of place, wouldn't it? Like, would you guys still watch my videos if I were to speak in anime noises? Hey guys, so today we're talking about the weirdest animal names. The first one is... the Great Tit. I want to put a bullet through my head. Alright, so I'm a jealous prick, I can admit that, because how come every school-related anime has this thing where the character can just go on the school rooftops with no obstacles blocking the way? Is it an anime thing? A Japan thing? I have no idea. But in my country, the staff do not trust that shit whatsoever. They know that it's a disaster waiting to happen, where a student decides gravity is the best way to get back down. One other thing that I noticed is that it's almost always empty. It's just the main characters over there, and no one else. If this was real life, I could promise you that the building itself would be completely deserted, with the others just hanging out over there. Most anime also have this gorgeous view, so why wouldn't you want to chill right there? But yeah, this is something I've never heard of in the Netherlands. If your country do have stuff like that, let me know and I'll shut my mouth next time. But for now, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, like, subscribe, drop some interesting comments, and I'll see you all in the next one.